Well, hello, folks. Gosh, it's getting harder and harder to look at the shit show. It was fun for a while, and I spent a lot of time reading people like Pareto and Julius Evola and Carlyle, stuff like that, because I was interested to understand what these Nouvelle right wingers were thinking, you know. But bit by bit, you understand that we're a narrative based, meme based uh, species, and we're basically true believers. Um, we're brought up to believe things, and believing things depends on what clique you associate with. There are many reasons why we would associate with a particular clique: upbringing, background, location, cultural embeddedness, proclivities that are mysterious and probably connected to genes and stuff like that. But anyway, you see Bobby in kindergarten and you go sit next to him, but why? Why him? Why not Jimmy? For some reason, some mysterious reason, Bobby smells better than Jimmy or something. And you gravitate towards that kid and become friends and so on. And the other ones, not so much. Um, we're a mysterious species of hominid, and everything's based on belief. So, you go to different cultures and you see they just think different, they believe different stuff. But eventually, metastatic modernity, um, techno-industrial, fossil fuel powered, took over the planet, and then financialization and neoliberal capitalism and so on. And now the world's fairly homogeneous, even if, yeah, Thai people are different from Burmese people, who are different from Nepalese people, who are different from, you know, people in Kenya or Tanzania or Uganda, wherever you want to point your finger. And you got those folks in West Virginia who are different from those folks in Virginia, and so on and so forth. But generally, we're all dependent on the same thing. We're all addicted to the same thing. We all use the same tools to survive, which is money and other things like that. Um, we're addicted to technology. We're just a creature addicted to a lot of stuff. We have dependencies, and it has nothing to do with the mosaic complexities of nature. Um, so we're really kind of outside it all. We've transcended everything. Um, we're supreme. We're the best, except some human beings are better than others. Um, so, uh, what concerns me, what I'm thinking about these days, which is why I want to do a series on a few different things, is get it out of my system, is these cycles that we go through, right? We go through some, whatever you want to call it, progressive period and then a conservative period. It doesn't matter how we uh, couch or what words we apply. We can be definitive about our ideological beliefs and so on as much as possible, rationalize them, have reasons, good reasons for them. But generally, Republican, Democrat, it's a meaningless distinction without a difference. But they're useful. They're utilitarian in the sense that you can use these uh, defined groups to divide and conquer. And we go through cycles. So there's a little bit of progressivism. I'm reading this book about education in the 60s, which is so good. And, you just look back at that time and what the conventions were, how you had to dress, how you had to behave, what people were fighting for uh, during the civil rights movement or what they were protesting against, Vietnam War, and so on. Um, And then you kind of move back towards a fascistic period, which is what we're in now. Who knows how it will manifest this time, what it's going to look like. But it's going to be painful, and it's going to hurt a lot of people. We can count on that for sure. And, people like Hegseth in the States and so on with all their little tattoos, to identify their idiotic belief system, what they believe in, getting a tattoo that says kafir, I mean, it's just so disgustingly stupid and ignorant. But they're smart people. They went to, universities, Ivy Leaguers, and they're, you know, he's a big shot now, so you got to believe he knows what he's doing. Anyway, uh, there are very few people I follow these days in terms of really reading their work, and one of them is Tom Murphy at Do the Math. He has a video series called Metastatic Humanity or something like that. Oh, Metastatic Modernity. Sorry. I just woke up. I need some exercise probably before I do this. But anyway, he also wrote a nice little companion series on his blog about Ishmael. So I love this series of books. Um, I think everybody should read Daniel Quinn's books. Um, Give them to your children. He's good, but once you kind of notice certain things, like I started noticing when I read Limits to Growth a long time ago, you can't unsee them. It's like taking the blue pill or the red pill. You open your eyes and then you realize what's going on. And I talked about the book Big Gods and all that kind of stuff before, but anyway, we are not animists. We do not care about how nature works, and we don't know anything about it, which makes us pretty ignorant in general. But we may know how to, write articles for a tech publication, Gizmodo or something. So we're really smart people. We can discuss what's going to happen with AI and whether it's going to be a good thing or a bad thing, and all this kind of fun stuff. And the mother of all bad ideas, and we can follow our favorite intellectual influencers and feel really smart because we're part of the in crowd. But basically, we don't know what we're doing. We're kind of blind. We're just moving through things with our addictions without giving it a second thought. But what's really sad about it, because this is just what it is, right? That's the kind of species we are, Homo sapiens sapiens. But what's sad about it is how much pain we have to inflict upon one another while we're stumbling around blind to nature. It's not enough that we compete to win or that we want stuff, conveniences, we want a decent job. We have to hate people and we have to hurt them, We have to defeat them. We're conquistadors, constantly wanting to conquer something or another and causing no end of pain and suffering. You don't have any compassion for topsoil. Why? Why would you care? We have fertilizers and we can grow monocultures and blah, blah, feed ourselves or whatever. But we care about, veganism or whatever. We don't have any compassion really for other species of life. We don't care about the sixth extinction really, but we care about other things, like what brand of Christian you are, or stuff like that. And in the meantime, we're identifying groups to scapegoat and to hate and to blame for all of our worries. So Trump is good at blaming people for stuff. And then he goes and commits even worse crimes. And he doesn't care about anybody but himself. And, we shrug our shoulders, at least we know who's to blame, right? But it's not him. It's not the structures uh, that characterize our system or anything like that. It's not our beliefs that we believe in dogmatically, unquestioningly. It's these other people. So it's so hypocritical. It's so shallow and stupid. But you know, um, everyone's a terrorist who isn't in your clique, right? And if you push back against the oligarchs or whatever, you're branded a terrorist. Anyway, more social control is the norm. It's going to get worse, and the tools to control people are getting more sophisticated and ubiquitous, and we're dependent on them, addicted to them. So it's not like we're going to be able to resist. The resistance would have to be unplugged, plugged, somehow able to transcend the bullshit, using the tools against the bullshit to try to wake people up to seeing things in a more holistic way, animistic way. But it's not going to happen. We have to be culturally Christian now or something like that. So I don't see the trends working for us. But what I want to explore is how people in power who are only concerned about their careers and their status and, call it power if you want to, but, they're only concerned with what they're doing within their clique, within their narrative structure and mimetic flow. And, that they don't care about anything else really. So in order to keep their gig in this metastatic, sick global economy of ours, they need enemies. They need warfare. So I was talking about, how ridiculously absurd it is to have a military buildup in Europe when, we have a lot of problems, like we're running out of energy and we're going to run out of materials sooner or later. And all it's going to do is make war more inevitable because you're going to have to use that stock at some point, because you're going to need more stock, stocks and flows, energy, materials, and all that. And eventually it will drive you to say, well, it's not enough just to have another Cold War with China and Russia. We're actually going to have to go and take Russia's stuff, all their stuff worldwide, whatever they're in control of. And, so it's inevitable. We have to have this war. We have to have a war with China because they're competitive and we can't tolerate competitors. We have to be in control. So it's inevitable. So you have the buildup, and eventually you just have a world war that's going to make the last one look like a picnic. And eventually it's going to go nuclear, and that's going to be bad for everything. But, who cares? These guys have to keep their job. The money has to keep flowing. You got to create more debt because you need more money. You need liquidity and all that kind of thing. So it's utterly sick as far as I'm concerned. But there's this psychological process of breaking people down so that you can get them on board for another fascistic push. And Tom Murphy talks about human supremacy, which is good, and he equates it to Nazism, the Human Reich. And I encourage you to read his blog post on that subject and also watch his video on YouTube on that subject. But anyway, the mechanisms are tried and true, so we're going to find ways to break you down psychologically so you're vulnerable to the messages and the narratives and the memes required to get you on board to sacrifice your life and your children's life on the altar of metastatic modernity, basically, but a new push for dominance, to conquer, to control, to win. So it's going to be ugly, it's going to be nasty, and it's not going to be good for anybody. Even the players are going to get crushed eventually, but for a while they're going to make more money, and they're going to get more attention, and they're going to have fun in their clique. And, I can never go with these people like Corbett, who think that everything's just like a Bilderberg conspiracy. Our leaders are pretty fucking ignorant. They're just caught up in this game, in this grotesque narrative, and they're doing what they're programmed to do. And if you look at education and how you were educated, you understand what you're being prepared for. If you can rise above it and have like a 360, high altitude, very focused and detailed view of the total situation, then you're being trained for a very narrow, myopic set of algorithms to fit into a certain cultural milieu that produces a certain kind of activity and belief system and so on. Anyway, so all of this is coercive control. We use all kinds of propaganda and public relations and marketing and storytelling and meme making, sense making to prepare you. But first we have to break you down. So there has to be fear mongering and things like that. So what do? We criticize and blame. You'll see this in the behavior of Trump and Musk and people like that. Once I go through this and you look, you'll see that's what they're doing all the time. So you criticize and blame. That's important. You got to have people you're feeling off kilter and somebody's to blame. And you chip away at people's self-esteem, basically. You criticize them and you criticize other people and you try to break them down. He's like little Marco, and now little Marco works in the Trump administration because all they care about is the freaking job. They have no principles, none whatsoever. So you isolate people, round them up and send them to a prison in El Salvador, whatever you have to do, or just ignore them, blackball them, shadow ban them, censor their speech, that kind of thing. And we are so vulnerable to not, being cast out from the group. A natural human being, hunter-gatherer, if cast out, would be as a death sentence, right? But for us, it's psychologically very painful to be blackballed or ignored. Like, hey, man, do you want to get together for a conversation? Fuck no, ignore you. You're too weird. And some people might feel really sad about that. Like, oh, you hurt my feelings. You don't want to hang out. For me, it's water off a duck because generally people who are too afraid to have open conversations about things and they're just not interesting to me anyway. So it's a waste of time to hang out with those people. But you need connection and all that stuff. We have very few friends in reality. So you have to reduce the, validation of your experience and who you are, and this is very uncomfortable to us. So humiliation and degradation, you have to use insults, mockery, right? Trump doing shit like that and calling people little Marco and whatever. He does it all the time. So he was calling Zelensky a dictator and an idiot, basically. But then when Putin points that out, he gets mad at Putin because I'm the only one that can do this kind of humiliation stuff. What gives you the right to do it? So, he's reluctant to humiliate Putin because Putin's a powerful man in a powerful country. And so he's not going to go there, but he's going to be upset about it. This faux upsetness that negotiators sometimes use. I'm going to walk out of the room. That'll show him. He'll change his tune. So that's extremely important. Gaslighting, we all know what that is, right? You just make people think that they're insane, You sow this self-doubt and confusion and, just making people question their own judgment. And that happens all the time. You see that every day. I mean, you're just like looking at the news, and you're going, wait a minute, I see this and that, and they're telling me it's different. It's so what I'm seeing isn't what I'm seeing. You know, it's like, no, Paris doesn't exist. The Earth is flat. But it's worse than that because it's all these little pernicious things you're being told all the time. You know what the truth is, what reality is, more or less. You have a sense of it, and but you're being told, no, that's not true. You know, what's happening over here is just, you know, killing terrorists. And yeah, there's some, you know, we make mistakes, collateral damage, you know, but you can't help that. The fog of war, you know, there's all kinds of excuses and rationalizations for doing these horrific things. Anyway, we're breaking down people to get them to go totally bloodthirsty, insane again. Only this time it's going to be more out of control, I think. But who knows? Maybe they'll be able to use all the tools to just focus it. You know, what's happening in the Middle East, it just happens in the Middle East. What are you going to do? You know, Jesus, it's just those people, you know. But I think the chickens are going to come home to roost. And there's no reason to believe that we can't have the kind of violence in Europe that we had before, or the kind of violence that we had in the United States with the Civil War or whatever. Can, you know, every day I look at the news and just, I'm so curious. I just look at the outline at the beginning. It's like 5 minutes or less because I don't want to see the in-depth part because it's never in depth. It's always shallow and simplistic. But you know, you have bad weather, you have aviation incidents all the time, you have shootouts and shootings. You know, it's just all this weird politics, and it's just crazy. And I can't. It's interesting to me that Americans don't wake up every morning and watch ABC, CBS, or NBC or whatever they're watching CNN. Over here, CNN is just a commercial for CNN. You get like 5 minutes of shallow bullshit and then a whole 10-minute piece about how great CNN is. It's absurd. And, you know, people watching this should be saying, what the fuck? This is crazy. We live in a sick, fucked up world, and what are we doing about it? But they don't. They just, I guess they look at it and think they're informed. The other thing is chaos and instability. So you have to sow this sense of drama and unnecessary confusion, and you have to really build up this sense that, you know, everything's unpredictable and erratic. And so, you know, what are we going to do? We need somebody to figure it out, and we need a strong leader to tell us what to do. So you have to create this kind of sense of chaos, even if it's not chaotic. You have to make it chaotic. And of course, you know, master capitalists and players know how to make bank on chaos, you know, shorting markets and, you know, oh, gee, Tesla went down. Well, now because Musk is going to go after all the people who criticize him, I guess the stock's going to go up again. So I better buy some Tesla, let it go up and then sell it, you know. But that's a simplistic view of it. But, you know, people who get ahead of the market in this rearmament plan, they're going to do okay. So if your sole reason for existence is to make money, then if you can follow the chaos, you can follow the money right into your bank account. And deprivation, so you keep people tired, you make them hungry, so you give them empty calories, and you just make it impossible for them to be physically and emotionally healthy. So, you know, you don't support them, you don't help them. You tell people that supporting vulnerable communities or caring about them at all is stupid. And, you withdraw any support or nourishment, both psychologically, intellectually, physically, from the people. And this breaks you down. So next time I'll talk about the psychological impact of this breakdown process. And I'm not going to read a teleprompter. I'm going to write a piece and put it on my blog. So if people are interested in reading that, they can. But I'm just looking at notes and going with that. There are lots of books on my website, cospelon.eu, book recommendations, which is in the About menu, dealing with these kinds of things. You can read psychology, or you can do research with AI, or you can do whatever you want if you're not familiar with these things. And if you are familiar with these things, why are we still so vulnerable to it, even though we know better? So you're turning away and saying, for me, I have to follow people that I know embrace reality and want to know how things really work. And by that, I mean, the sciences and physics and of course, more complex and difficult subjects like social science and psychology and all that. These things are a little more murky, but you still need to have a good foundation in them, because it's all of this manipulation. It's for real, and they're using it, and it's almost reflexive. I think Donald Trump knows this in his bones. He was born knowing how to manipulate people. Some people are just like that. I think Elon Musk is like that. He's just a talented sociopathic con man, and he's just able to do it. And he doesn't have to think about it much. He doesn't have to plan it out. So it's not like James Corbett, where you're saying, well, these guys are in there in the smoke-filled room planning the stuff out. No, they don't have to plan it out. It's built in, it's structured into the system, and it's built into their experience and education, and it probably has a lot of genetic components to it as well. So I think they're just talented manipulators. And I don't think Trump has to think about it. It just comes natural to him. It's just reflexive. And for a lot of these people, maybe they did decide, I am a smart man. I know what's going on. I want to manipulate people. So if I have a PR company or an advertising agency, and I used to work in those fields, I have to think about that and implement something for the client to achieve a certain measurable result. And so you put together a talented team of people to orchestrate the messaging. And it's beyond the notes. It's beyond the notes. It's the whole symphony. It has to connect with the audience that you're targeting and make them want to do something or believe something or feel something. And that will make them act in accordance with your profit making. So whatever, I'm not saying this too well. So next time I'll talk about psychological effects of the breakdown. Take good care. BuliMT out.